Welcome to the live Diving Deeper podcast. We're your hosts, Drews and the handsome Mandela.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
You ready to let it rip, man?
Yeah, man. We've been talking about this for a minute. This diving deeper portion of Schwebel Room Network. You know what I'm saying? So let's just get into it. What we got
All right, let's rock with this intro music here.
for sure.
All right. Diving deeper.
Yes, sir.
Ooh.
So what's on the topic for today? What we got going today?
All right, well, shoot, where you want to start, man? We got a couple of things just to get it started. Uh, we talk about our one of our modern day comic icons here, Mr. Chris Rock.
Yeah, we can definitely go with that one. Definitely. For sure.
There's the recent stand-up special that he did with Netflix,
Yeah.
Selective Outrage.
Yeah, it's been a lot of talk on that one, a lot of backlash on that.
Yeah,
Definitely. And they saying that he's pandering to the white audience, calling him a sellout. There's been a whole lot of negative speak on that. I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
good question. Good question. Well, I don't think it's that cut and dry per se, but I did notice some things that I found to be questionable. Uh,
Okay.
in comedy, their aim is usually to press the envelope or push it as far as they can take it. So, erring on that side of the creative aspect of comedy, and being that I'm not a professional comedian, uh, what's funny to me may not be funny to some others, and vice versa. But I felt like he took it to a different type of dark place. And it
Okay.
almost sounded like he was sounding off on on his own people, and I didn't like the feeling I came away with, from hearing the word choice he used, the setting up of his jokes, joking about, for example, like, when black people moved into his neighborhood, which is like $1 million neighborhood, he still wanted to move further away, where it was just white people, uh, you know. Um,
Hmm.
this is just it's typical Chris Rock from my assessment. You know what I mean? And I don't want to stand completely in judgment of him, or where he, judge where he stands without knowing him personally, or even being in circles that are connected to him, to
Right.
make that assessment. But all I can go off of, you know, is what I was hearing and what I saw. Uh, I mean, I understand he wanted some reciprocity from the slap incident from last year's Oscars, uh, but I feel like the character that he exhibited is 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 exemplary, an example of the type of individual, when we were coming up, that would hide behind his bigger cousins or his family connections, or being, connected or tight with somebody who was in authority, so that you really couldn't get any get back. You know,
Hmm.
um, it felt like they could say anything that they wanted to you, and regardless of the context or connotation in which they were speaking, you couldn't get any you couldn't get any justice. Um, and, and I don't know the nature of him and Will Smith's relationship prior, but I know that when you start to insult another man's wife, regardless of what she is or isn't, or your opinion is of her, um, the end kind of justifies the means. Not that I advocate random violence or just violence because of unchecked emotion, but when the man said keep his wife's name out your mouth, a year later you double down and 15, 16 times call her, you know, a bitch.
Yeah.
I mean, at that point in time, I might have to just look at my bank account and say, fuck getting canceled. We can catch each other outside and your brothers can get it too.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. No doubt. I mean, from I'm not gonna say my standpoint, but like from what I'm taking from it is it's basically strategic. Now, granted,
Okay.
you have what everybody calls Chris Rock humor,
Right.
which is more of a dry humor, but also it's like a black dude doing white comedy because his jokes are structured and set up. And I think with this special, he kind of tried to go the Chappelle route because as far as the comedy aspect, there was some parts that were funny, but in my opinion, a lot of it really wasn't on the comedic side. It was more storytelling, you know what I'm saying? But he was trying to get those points out and everything, and with him on the side of calling Will Smith's wife what he called her, I think he was just on some, well, you told me to keep her name out of my mouth, and that's what I did. And being who he is, he pushed the envelope by doing that. You know what I'm saying? I don't condone it. I wouldn't have done it, but I mean, that's me. And then from that one video clip that you sent me where he was talking about where they were saying that he was talking about, well, the actual title, which is called Selective Outrage, where
Yes.
he was talking about how, well, you can play Michael Jackson music, but you can't play R. Kelly. Bringing Michael Jackson into it to me wasn't even called for. You know what I'm saying? Like, for one, the brother was never found guilty of any of that. Two, the brother's not here to defend himself. Like, it's just like certain lines that you don't cross, and bringing up somebody who's no longer here, we just don't do that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then, like, another thing I'm thinking as far as with the whole thing with the moving out of the neighborhood because you got other black folks moving in, that may be true, but there's another line that you don't cross when it's basically we call that bringing up dirty laundry when company is around.
Yep.
Don't do that. That's a lot of things that us black folks do, and we just shouldn't do that because other people don't do that. You know what I'm saying? Other cultures don't do that. We seem to be the only culture that does that, and that's where like a big problem lies, where we bring up dirty laundry in front of company.
Right. Good points. Very good points. And that kind of, not kind of, that connects directly to what I'm saying is as far as that type of person that felt like they could throw the rock and hide their hand, or not even hide their hand, but throw the rock and then look at you and say like, "What? What's the problem? Why are you so angry?"
Yeah,
Uh, because you couldn't keep that same energy if you were 2 feet away
yeah,
from people. And just like I said, not to be judge of the universe or anything, but it doesn't sit well with me, even when the slap took place,
Right.
knowing what I knew at the time and was cognizant of it, the history of the Oscars, Jada proposing that they boycott the Oscars because so many black actors and actresses were being overlooked or snubbed for certain uh, categories of award.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, it was her husband at that time, but who was bigger than him? You know
Right.
what I'm saying? And so
Right.
at some point in time, we have to stop separating ourselves in that we don't want to be separated from the categories of excellence. But when it comes down to it, you know, we we've always had our own thing.
Right.
But now when it comes to Hollywood, we have what they call Black Hollywood in Atlanta. Now,
Mm-hmm.
is it on the same level or scale? I would say dare to say, if not, yes, darn close.
Right.
But these are institutions, meaning they have been implemented over time. They've been standing institutions where people who have had a consistent vested interest, in the academy, so to speak, have established these things. So anything you do after that, they're going to say, oh, they're just copying off of this, or they're just, piggybacking off of that. But this was the year that there was a black producer.
Mm-hmm.
You had Questlove win an award. You had Samuel L. finally get his flowers. All that's overshadowed not just by the slap, but by the indignancy of the jokes. Like, wow. So it's one thing to say, okay, it's my job. I don't want to say no to the offer to host. You could have kept it at that. But just because she sat in the front, now you take the occasion to step into a minefield.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Because I would imagine that after he said, hell no, I'm still taking the job, there was maybe a silence, maybe not words exchanged, but a silence. And the phone wasn't ringing as often between the two men in the situation. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying? And the other thing I looked at is you say you rooted for Will Smith, but you turn it into a double-handed compliment and a joke because that's what part of satire and comedy is. But um, looking at it a little bit closer, it's like maybe you were a bit jealous that you didn't have the stage presence or the camera on screen, you know, presence of a Will Smith. And there's just so many things, man, we could unpack with this. You didn't even make an effort to block the slap. The slap came down from Mississippi. It took time to reach New York. You didn't move out the way,
Yeah.
and then you say, "Damn, y'all, Will Smith just slapped the shit out of me." I mean, all of those things to me speaks, and I think I said this in the beginning when we first talked about this a year ago on the other podcast, that there's something that speaks to the nature of that man. You've had all these years to eat, right, lift weights, whatever you had to do to put on some type of, not that he has to. I'm just saying he can be slim and keep his build and be a man. It's just, but to say that he picked you because you were smaller, I don't think so. I don't think that's the kind of man that Will Smith is, regardless of some of the other things that we may or may not know about his private life and his wife's private life. Those things notwithstanding, that man played Ali, and he didn't just play Ali, like he put on mass to look like Ali and to move like Ali and to learn the techniques Ali had to practice and study. I'm not saying that he would have got in there with another heavyweight that's a professional fighting for years and what I'm saying, did damage. I'm just saying.
But he did though. See, that's another thing. Like
Oh, okay. See, now
and the
you're educating me on something.
see in the on the last episode of the other podcast, I had asked, I'm like, hey, did y'all read his autobiography? And it was like, nah. I'm like, well, if you read his autobiography, you would have kind of understood why that slap happened. I'm like, I don't condone it, but I understand why he did it. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff that happened in this man's life, like from a kid to what he's going through right now, that kind of explains why that slap happened. You know what I'm saying? Again,
Oh
I
yeah.
don't
Yeah.
think it should have went down, or if it went down, it should have went down when it went down. Because to me, that's the same thing of airing out dirty laundry in front of company, but there was a reason for it. And I mean, if you would have read the if you read his autobiography, Will Smith's autobiography, it kind of explains it. Like it pretty much goes in depth as
Mm.
to why it happened. Like he goes in depth, like from a childhood on
From his
to
what his mother and father went through and what he watched.
that,
Yeah.
and then to his marriage and stuff, what he went through, what he went through and all that stuff. Yeah, it kind of explains it.
And yeah, but I think that's what Chris kind of took the occasion and opportunity to go in on. And the thing is, when you are a public figure like that, uh, you put aspects of yourself in the limelight along with, the public persona. You share a certain vulnerability,
Mm-hmm.
and um, it can come back and bite you in the butt later. And I
Definitely,
think this is
definitely.
definitely one of those situations for Will. But to show his contriteness and to continually reach out to apologize, and no one's saying he has to ever accept his apology. He has
Right.
every right to say, no, I don't accept that. It should have never happened. I can't view you the same. But for him to have reached out so many times, allegedly, to
Mm-hmm.
mend that fence, to have at least a dialogue. Hell, even like I said earlier, catch me outside, man. You know what I'm saying? We can catch another fade. Let's see what you got. You know what I mean? I'll let you throw the first five. I got you by however many pounds. Let's see what you got. And if you can't knock me down by the fourth or fifth one, I mean, I'm swinging back. You know what I'm saying? But either way, it's certain stuff you just don't do, man. And he's always been that guy. It's not just the Will situation. He's had selective outrage himself. And, do you ever see the documentary he did, Good Hair,
Yep.
several years ago? What did you
Yep.
think? What did you think of that? What do you think that came from? Because I want to hear another
I mean,
perspective
it was.
before I
I
get
mean,
mine.
I saw it when it first came out, and to be honest with you, I was in a whole different place at that time. So it was like I really didn't go deep into it. You know what I'm saying? I was like,
Sure.
oh, okay, that's wild. You know what I'm saying? I didn't go into a place. If I watch it now, I'd probably have a total different. It would definitely hit different if I watch it now.
Gotcha. For me, what it hit on was, how we came up in the hip hop culture.
Right.
You and me
Right.
definitely we could say for sure heavy in the hip hop culture.
Mm-hmm.
We were into the music, we were recording, we were dancing and dance troops and groups. What I'm saying, dressing, not just dressing the part, but living the culture. And
Right.
one aspect of that culture was that we talked in a certain code. Even the ones of us that weren't running heavy in the streets, involved in illegal activities or negative actions against our own. Um, the one thing that we definitely understood and appreciated about our favorite artists was they talked in a certain code.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and if other people from other cultures picked up on the code, great. If they didn't, great. And the ones that were genuine about being in the culture, we might share certain things with them, nuanced things that would give them insight further
Right.
into why we were the way that we were and why we move how we move. Well,
Mm-hmm.
said all that to say that documentary to me was an example of, let me tell, and I'm saying this, not to be offensive to anybody in the audience in the future or not, but let's show the white folks what we mean when we say good hair.
Mm.
Okay, let's bring them in on this. But there wasn't no meeting, and not that there has to be. He's an individual, right? But it's just
Right.
like the statement you made. He's a black comedian, in your words, doing white comedy. I was watching a short the other day, and it was a clip of, I can't think of the guy's name. He's a comedian, real funny. Um, and he had this younger Mexican American comedian on, and he asked him about George Lopez, and he said, "You would assume that that's my idol," but he said, "I didn't grow up watching George Lopez. I don't know anything about George Lopez, other than that he's a Mexican comedian." And so the other comedian explained to him. He said, "Here's what's deep." He said it took him being a Mexican comedian in order for you to become a comedian that's Mexican.
Mm.
When does that
That's
ever
deep.
happen for us?
Right.
And who decides when it's happened?
Right.
When I saw that short, man, it hit me in a way. I was like, wow, like that's true. And it's heavy at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And so if anybody's reached that status, it would be Dave Chappelle. Prior to him, if it was anybody that reached that status, it would have been Eddie Murphy. And prior
Right.
to him, if it had been anybody that reached that status, it would have been what? Cosby, Dick Gregory,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
But the consistency of Cosby and Gregory and Murphy, the style of delivering the joke and the what's the word, um, context in which their jokes were received was totally different. Even with the use of the N word, referring to us as a collective people, colloquially, generically, it hit different.
Right.
The way that his stuff hit on this last one for me, I'm not easily offended, but I definitely took a difference in his approach.
Oh, there was definitely a different tone in this special in comparison to some of his other specials. And I'm talking about even when you go back to Bring the Pain and Bigger and Blacker, you know what I'm saying? There was definitely a much different tone in this special in comparison to those other specials. And the wild part is his comedy structure really hasn't changed from those. You know what
Right.
I'm saying?
Correct.
And like when I say, and let me amplify or not amplify, but let me explain what I mean when I say like doing white comedy. If you go, I didn't really realize that there was like a difference until 2000, 2001. If you go back and watch the Kings of Comedy DVD,
Yeah.
Steve Harvey will explain to you exactly the difference between white comedy and black comedy. And like white comedy, the jokes are structured in a certain way.
Yeah.
You have a story, a setup, a story, and a punchline. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Whereas black comedy, you just going in, bam, 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 like one hitters, punchline, punchline, punchline. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And hit Chris Rock stuff is basically the whole, like, you know what I'm saying, setup, story, punchline type thing. So that's basically what the difference between white comedy and black comedy is. And that's how he does it. And then we're saying, like, well, like Kevin Hart's a black comedian. I'm like, they were like, well, how do you figure that is? He's like, well, he's a black comedian who's reached that critically acclaimed status. Okay, cool. But back to what I was saying, like, there was a much different tone with what he was speaking on in this comedy special than what he has been speaking. Like, there was an agenda with this. And when I said before that this was strategic, again, that slap happened about a year ago.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I guarantee the comedian has to do, he has to like gather up material. And it might take a little bit of time to gather up material. And you got to go to like different spots to test the jokes out and things of that nature and stuff. But for you to get the Netflix special, to get your bag and everything, and drop this exactly 1 week before the Oscars the next year drops, is that not strategic, bruh?
Absolutely. I mean, and then the jokes, even though we say he kept the same formula, right? His approach, his subject matter. Even the joke where he talks about preferring a trans woman to a woman when it comes to sports. And that joke didn't really get out that many laughs, but there was definitely a push. It was like a far reach.
He was trying to reach without poking the bear on that one. Because I mean, like I said, as far as like the stuff that he was poking on, he did that in the beginning with that Michael Jackson versus R. Kelly, and then at the end with what you knew he was gonna speak on. You know what I'm saying? That was
Yeah,
like the grand finale in the fireworks.
yeah, yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah. I didn't look at it like that, but I get what you're saying now. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like I said, it was a dark place, and not even like dark humor. It was just like I said, man. It took me back to childhood, man. To those cats that thought, like I said, it was all fun and games until they had a deviated septum or a broken orbital bone. Like I know one guy
Yeah.
thought it was all fun and games to keep cracking on this guy. The guy wasn't never a bully, but he just wasn't the guy you played with beyond when he wasn't playing anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, man, it's just all bad from there because
Mm-hmm.
people have limits, and that's not right. Like I said, to say right or wrong, or that I advocate or support, like I said, emotional violence. It's just you don't know what a person's reaction is going to be, and if you kind of have an indicator and you still want to gaslight on that level, you got to be prepared for what's coming. Um,
Yeah,
you know, but yeah, man,
definitely.
yeah, good talk, good talk on
Indeed.
that. Nah. But
Indeed.
so let's see what we have. Yeah, we can segue. And it's not going to be a smooth transition. Sorry, y'all, but hey, it's necessary. What do you think of these train derailments, knowing that they're not all that uncommon?
So from one dark cloud to another.
Mm-hmm.
There's the segue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Indeed.
Um, yeah, I mean, you gotta figure first, the one that was close to home for both of us. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that one,
Yeah.
that was wild, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Cause I
Palestine.
don't, yeah, that one, I'm hearing that from what I've been seeing, like they were saying that like everything that was involved in that was not, well, involving it as far as like the stuff that the train was carrying and all that was on some like hydrochloric acid type stuff. Like I don't know how true that was, but that's just what I was seeing. And I mean, if that's what the case is, that ain't good.
Ooh. So, yeah. Let's see here. I'm trying to share my screen. Okay, it's not going to let me do that without doing that first. All right, never mind. So, I was going to show this article. The EPA um, in their list of, let me see if I can at least see, do this. Let's see. Sorry, I don't want to be too silent for too long. Sorry, you
No,
all.
all good, all good. We just gathering up the info.
Yup. Let's see. Okay. Water sampling data, East Palestine, Ohio, train derailment. This is from the EPA, United States Environmental Protection Agency website. U.S. EPA collected surface water samples for analysis of including volatile organic compounds, or VOCs, butyl arsenate, and ethylene glycol monobutyl ether. U.S. EPA continues to support water sampling efforts collected by Ohio EPA and Norfolk Southern. U.S. EPA surface water example locations were selected based on site observations and how water flows. And from the site to nearby creeks, samples were collected in Sulphur Run, Leslie Run, and other waterways downstream to the Ohio River. So this is affecting obviously more than just East Palestine. Let me see one more time if I can share this screen. Um,
Yeah, I seen some like little TikTok videos of the streams and stuff afterwards, and there was a whole bunch of dead fish that they were showing just floating. And this was
mm,
like weeks after people. Oh yeah, I'm on a trail walk, and just look at the dead fish.
There's, can you see the map?
Yeah,
Yeah. So this is what we're looking at. Wow. So we're looking at, there's Youngstown, Struthers, Boardman, East Palestine, southeast of Youngstown there. Yeah, not far from Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania.
right.
So we got some major areas there affected with these waterways. East
Hmm.
Liverpool, Calcutta. These are towns probably everyone else has not heard of unless you're from northeastern Ohio specifically. But as you can see, this is affecting a much larger area. The waterways carry all the way down into Steubenville, which I believe is the home of Dean Martin. For those of you who know, and if you don't, he was an old school, jazz musician and actor. But yeah, as you can see, this is, yeah, it's affecting quite an area. They were saying up to at least 100 to 120 miles away. They were finding dead fish, dead birds,
See, and
dead,
you figure if it's going into the Ohio River, that might stretch as far as what, Cincinnati?
and beyond, because Ohio is a tributary of the Mississippi.
Hmm. And I mean, if it's going to reach at least Cincinnati, it's going to affect Pittsburgh too, Western Pennsylvania,
Absolutely.
and all that. So yeah, that's a lot, bruh. That's a lot.
Yeah, yeah. I wish we had old man Ally on here so we could
Yeah,
elaborate from a more expert level. Um,
cause you, cause I mean, too, you got to think if it's going to affect the Ohio River, if it affect Pittsburgh, that's two more rivers that stuff could get into.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that is not good.
So here's the lab results to the right, in the right hand column of the screen, showing the samples and the readings of those samples. Also on the left hand side.
Mm,
So yeah, this is a big deal.
yeah, yeah, a big deal.
It's a big deal, man. So yeah, man. So I mean, this wasn't the only derailment or spill within a certain. I want to say, was it 2 to 4 days? We had a derailment in South Carolina, one in Louisiana, uh,
It was one in Houston.
one in Houston,
I
and
think
there was
it
a
was one
factory
in.
in Houston too. A factory exploded. I want to,
Yeah.
if not Houston, but nearby.
Mm-hmm.
We had an explosion a week later here in Ohio. at a factory in
Up in
the Cleveland area.
Cleveland, Cleveland, yeah.
Hmm.
And if I'm not mistaken, there was another train derailment in Arizona.
There we go. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yep. Absolutely. And so these are not uncommon, folks. I want to say, do you remember how many a year Tank was saying there is? Was it twenty
I,
thousand?
about that. About that. I mean, yeah, there are a lot of. I can't front. There are a lot of train derailments that do happen in a year. You know what I'm saying? But
Mm-hmm.
it's just that a lot of these had toxic chemicals involved in them. You know what I mean? So that's just what made it look a little weird, a little funny.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. Let's see here. Sorry, trying to add another tab. There we go. Let's see. Mm. Okay, it wasn't quite nowhere near that much, but hold on.
That's still a
1,000.
lot though per
Yeah,
year.
it's a lot. Yeah, over a thousand to
Hmm.
between 1,000 and 1,200. We can say roughly per day. Oh, that's per day. Oh,
So
oh,
yeah,
oh! It
he was
highlighted itself.
he wasn't off. He was not off.
So,
Yeah.
and this, I mean, this has been happening for a while, and then, it's crazy how this it becomes political too, Corey, because uh, what ends up happening is there was a situation where President Obama had them widen. I want to say, was it the wheels on the train cars or the tracks? I want to say it was the wheels or something. The brakes, the brakes. That's what it was. They were larger brakes during the Obama administration. So now they're trying to pin these actions on Trump, and so
Mm.
a lot of us are not
Oh,
seeing.
I did read that where he said that he put that law into effect where they widened that, and then as soon as he got in the office, he
Yeah,
axed it. I did read that.
I mean, and he did literally say that he was going to undo everything that he could that Obama had done.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well. Mm.
So there's a lot more to this than what meets the eye or the ear,
Yeah.
and even still, one of the deeper spiritual things that's not being brought up, of course, because it's just not a commonplace discussion, which is what resource or what is the energy reading spiritually of Palestine, East Palestine. Why the name? Why was that name chosen for that region? When was it given, and what's in that land? Because when you deal with vinyl chloride and the cloud that is created when it's burned or it explodes, uh, after about 3 or 4 days, it's I don't want to say breathable, but it's dissipated tremendously. And if it's in water, even though it's poisoning the water clears it from that particular specific spot and within a matter of days. So that land is now recoverable or recoupable for someone who comes in on a rescue effort.
Hmm.
And then one of the examples that's been given in some of the TikTok shorts and some of the other information that's been put out via short reels or videos that people put out very quickly is that's what happened in World War II.
Mm.
With the Nazi soldiers, and why chemical weaponry was banned even at wartime by the Geneva Convention. Because of the effects that it has on the environment and the animals and people. And then, of course, we've seen this all throughout history with certain groups of conquerors. They come in with a disease or diseases or an infestation of sorts of some type of ecosystem harming animal or insect life. And we're seeing this. Like, I mean, we have, man, this is expanding. Sorry. We're going down
No,
that
it's all
rabbit hole.
good. Hey,
We have
it's
these
all good.
Japanese stink beetles that we didn't have growing up in Ohio. We never saw these bugs. And then when you look it up, when you do any kind of research, I don't care if it's Google, or I don't care if it's a library book, I don't care if it's a phone call to a pest control center in China, there is no known uh, treatment or extermination tool sufficient to get rid of these insects.
You talking about the stink bugs?
Yes.
You right. You're right about
Yeah.
that.
Once they take over a yard or an area, I mean, it's a wrap, bro.
Yeah, because there's a special way that you got to get rid of them.
Hmm.
It said you can't like kill them, like legit, like stomp on them, because it lets off a pheromone that attracts more.
More of them.
So I was told that the best way to get rid of them, like if you find them in your house, is to catch them with like a napkin or something and flush them down the toilet. That's the best way to get rid of them.
Tried that. Doesn't work.
Yo,
Try to put them in the trash. Man, we tried all of that. I
man,
mean, and
listen, we had on our way back to Texas, we found one. Like, you better get rid of that thing, man. Dump that mug off in Kentucky. Yeah, we ain't bringing that back with us. No, not
the thing
quite.
is, they're all over this region, and it's just like years prior to that, it was those Japanese beetles that looked like the ladybug.
Yeah.
They literally would mimic a ladybug, and but their hue was like orange. It was a bright orangish, almost red, but not red. You had to
Right.
look closely, and then they had these little pinchers on the back of them. And prior to that, it
Mm-hmm.
was the lungfish, which is a fish that can live on land for 3 to 4 days, and it actually has little legs. And then they were paying people to catch them and bring them to the park rangers to get rid of them, but people were keeping them, until they had a certain amount and trying to like cash in all at once for the reward. Then they
Yeah.
stopped paying, so then people stopped fishing for them. So it's not even that they got rid of them; people just stopped catching them or turning them in when they catch them on accident. So yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, this goes back, man. Like topics like this, it might sound mundane to somebody or just why would I care? The earthworm was brought here in the soil from England with their
Mm.
tobacco plants.
Wow.
National Geographic did a edition. What do you call it? Yeah, an edition years ago. I can't even think how many years ago was that. It might have been 15 or more. And when I read that article in that edition of the National Geographic, it blew my mind because it made perfect sense. It said the earthworms were eating up the foliage, the dead foliage that was on the ground that would normally replenish the soil in that area.
Mm-hmm.
So once they were introduced to our ecosystem, they damaged and evolved that part of our ecosystem permanently. And they infiltrated the soil not just in Virginia, where they were initially dropped off or planted, but throughout the entire North American continent.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
That is crazy.
and we don't give a second thought to anything like that, or we're not even aware. And when we become aware, we don't even know what to do with the information. But it's bringing those type of things, like even state to state, certain plants you cannot transport from one state to another. And I used to think that was ridiculously restrictive until I found out how many new hybrid species of spider exist in Ohio and in the state of Michigan just from people traveling back and forth between those two states.
Word?
Yeah,
Wow.
because you want to take your bush from your house, your land in Ohio, and you bought some property in Michigan. Now you want to move there. You want to take the plant your mom, your aunt, whoever bought for you.
Mm-hmm.
But now you're transporting a whole nother type of parasite or insect, and they get with the other parasites or insects in that region or in that territory, and they create new species that can't be dealt with.
No, it
Or,
makes sense. It makes sense. I mean, especially after watching all those to catch a smuggler shows that I be watching
well,
on
yeah.
how like certain foods can't be brought from one country into the United States because of like parasites and all that stuff. Yeah, it makes sense now. I get it.
Oh yeah.
I get it.
Oh yeah.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. It gets deep, man. But we know our environment, the planet, has taken so many hits, and so many of those hits that it's taken, even the corporations that have produced these chemicals and transported these chemicals had accidents, and sometimes not so much an accident, but more so improper disposal. Okay, that it they do not even know the measure of the effect that it's going to have on human DNA, animal DNA, plant life. They have no clue.
Hmm.
And I ask myself sometimes, how do you come up with a substance that you're not able to predict its effects future wise on the environment? And how many of these substances, chemicals are we in use of every day? Like every day I see some kind of warning about the laundry detergents and the fabric softeners, but they're still on the shelves.
Yeah.
And with the economy as bad as it is, who's honestly going to shut down any of these
Yeah.
companies?
Yeah.
So, and it's crazy because we would rather have the semblance of fiat or money or currency in hand than to let go of the poison that's destroying us slowly but surely.
That part.
And most of us are guilty of it, myself included. Not that we
Same.
want to be, not that we don't give a fuck. It's just you like, what do you replace it with? Oh,
Hmm.
there's natural things, and there's people that I know that go through those extra efforts, and I respect them for that. But
Right.
that education, that knowledge set, that skill set, it needs to be made more accessible.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's not to snub the corporations, even though I might have one opinion about them on a spiritual level. I understand that that is the way things have been and the way they are. You know, for now and for however long they have been in effect. But it's been really, if you think about it, according to the last 100 to 130 years, that this structure has been in place and this corporate interest has been vested to the degree that it is. That's not a very long time
Not at all. Not at all.
to be able to
It,
do that much damage in that small amount of time.
no, it hasn't. But you also got to think of what you just said. They would rather have that money than to get rid of that product. And when you figure out that product is going to make you more money, you're going to continue to make that product, even at the hands of risking and damaging lives and the environment. The thing is, they probably knew that this was going to happen way beforehand and already had the warning signs printed.
I.e., the metaverse, i.e., virtual reality, i.e., artificial intelligence, Skynet. I mean, the whole list goes on. And I showed a group of friends a couple of years ago that these things already exist. The things that we've seen in movies,
Mm-hmm.
we've they already exist. If you Google it right now, it'll show you it's in China.
Mm-hmm.
When you see the level that the technocrats have taken the sciences and the technologies that they have been learning, experimenting with, trial and error with for so long, just how far in some ways they've come, yet without any answers to certain other things. And then the things that we've come up with the answers for, like the brother that came up with the cures for, like, I want to say 3 or 4 different kinds of cancer, they put that stuff right on the shelf.
Yep.
Obama administration signed off on it, like, yes, thank you for presenting us with that. It's documented. Boom. Now put this away. But now it's big pharma and insurance, and they work. They've been working hand in hand. The one of the most booming businesses now is urgent cares and medical centers.
The urgent care. They put up urgent cares any and everywhere. You see a old fast food restaurant,
Yes,
urgent care.
an old bank, an old
Urgent
shopping
care.
mall becomes an urgent care emergency room center, and now a hospital in my town.
Dude, I've seen urgent cares for pets.
Oh yeah,
Real talk.
oh yeah. And you know what? And I respect animals, and I like and love animals of all sorts. I've never been a, well, I shouldn't say never. I haven't been a pet owner since I was a boy. However, the more and more I think about it, pets are important because when you're dealing with a poisonous environment, Dick Gregory said something I'll never forget. He said, "You want to know if your water is safe to drink?" He said, "Run it from the tap, put it in
And
a
see if your
bowl,
animal drink it.
set that bowl of water out for a couple hours." He said, "If that dog or cat don't touch that water," he said, "don't you drink that water."
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
There's certain animals that can smell certain specific diseases.
Mm-hmm.
There's dogs that can smell cancer in you, and they'll just keep coming, laying their head on you, like almost mourning, like, if you don't do something to get some help, I already know what's about to happen to you.
Mm-hmm.
And the dog is letting you know, cat is
Yeah.
letting you know. Um, but yeah, man, that you're right. They have veterinary clinics and emergency veterinary care popping up, and you have urgent cares, emergency rooms, clinics popping up everywhere. You have plasma banks now popping up everywhere. um, and I noticed 4 or 5 years ago here, I said, check that out. She's all good jobs. I said, oh no, bad, sick people.
Yeah.
And she said, I said, ah,
Mm-hmm.
it
Right.
depends on where you stand, right? So if you can
Mm-hmm.
stay healthy and get a job there, or get the training to get certain other higher jobs if you're already in that field, is great for you on that end.
Right.
But what we saw just 2 years ago was doctors who were already in the making money process, a part of their career. They already went through the residencies, they already paid off the student loans. Now they're in the straight profit. They done moved into the big dream family house and set up the vacation months in advance, and they got all that working like clockwork. And some of them said, I'm not coming back in this place another goddamn time.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I know we can't say certain things on certain platforms, but I spoke it before, and Tank can be my witness. Every time the video was posted, 3 hours later, it was taken down. And then 2 weeks later, they would admit through the media what I was saying, of whatever I researched and knew was correct. And they would try to spin it, and now we have these proceedings, all these hearings, what are they called? Senatorial hearings.
Mm-hmm.
We're not really hearing the outcomes. We're not really hearing the blow by blow. We're seeing the reports after. We're seeing the so-called recordings of those hearings in news segments, controlled. You get what I'm
And
saying?
they only gonna tell you what they want you to hear.
Didn't used to be that way.
Right.
Remember when you could go on C-SPAN and you could hear everything. You could hear who
Mm-hmm.
argued, who almost came to blows. And you remember
Mm-hmm.
when our guy trafficking was in there, he didn't play. And he didn't care who you were, what your name was,
True
what your bloodline, your
OG.
pedigree. Yeah, he would tell you like it was, and he wasn't mincing words. He might come over
Mm-hmm.
a table if you talk to him
Mm-hmm.
crazy. So
Mm-hmm.
different. It's just different times, man. You know, different times, and it's crazy. Is some of our generation. I can name two or three people that suffered traumatic events, whether it was through surgeries or injuries, that have lost their short term memory and parts of their long term memory. So
Tragic.
it's only by linking up with us in the same generation and conversation and us, oh, remember that time? And oh, remember when? And they're that's how they're piecing it back together because, and I'm like, wow. And they're
Mm-hmm.
great individuals. And none of them are doing bad in life. They're awesome. But that aspect to lose a part of yourself in the form of those memory and to have to experience, you know what I'm saying? It's like Mandela effect, to experience the modern spin on everything.
Right.
And someone
Right.
else like, nah, it wasn't that way 20 years ago. And
Mm-hmm.
they're like, fill me in. I don't remember. And you're like, you don't remember? You're
Mm-hmm.
only 40 some years old. Well, I had surgery or I had this accident or,
Yeah.
went through this illness. And then all of a sudden I was having trouble remembering things. And my heart started hurting. How many people are going to drop on these professional playing fields and courts?
That part.
And they say you can't say the common link is
Right.
they opted into taking something the league said they had to take in order to continue to make that money and play that game.
And I mean, shoot, you gotta think. Go back and watch that ESPN 30 for 30 special broke.
Hmm.
When they talk about how the football players, when they talk about how they gotta play through that pain,
Right.
and then they end up getting hooked on them that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. And it's amazing. Like a lot of this stuff they'll say is new, but when you look back just 80 to 100 years ago, there was a different version of it. It was the same
Yeah,
stuff.
they just remixed and renamed it.
Hmm. And now it's legal as long as they say that you need to take it.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
They
man.
might have changed a couple things in the they might have not changed but rearranged a couple things in the recipe.
Right.
That's about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. So yeah, we've covered a little ground here, but yeah, I'm glad you all, whoever joins us, like, share, subscribe.
Please.
Please
For
support our
sure.
our NFT marketplace. The Schweb3 token is available. You can invest in our crypto, spend in our marketplace, and you can make money by spending the money that the cryptocurrency that we have
Indeed.
available. We have NFTs available at what is it? The HTTPS. The Schwebel. It's the Schwebelroom.com basically.
Yeah.
Um, Absolutely, man. 3 p.m. D podcast Tuesday nights, 9:30 Eastern Standard Time PM. Uh, that'd
We
be
got
what?
some we got some new merch coming too. Be
Oh
on the
yeah,
lookout for that.
absolutely,
In pro
absolutely,
in progress as we speak.
indeed, indeed,
Yeah, man. We doing some things over here. Show.
absolutely. What else we got? Anything else you want to promote?
I mean, again, you can see what we got on our social media, Schwebel Room.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're constantly posting, trying to get the word out, and trying to share a little bit of the light and the love that we bring you.
Yeah, and
Um,
definitely, most
Absolutely.
definitely.
Yeah, we got deeper dives to even come up soon here. Even more to come soon. So tune in, y'all. Be ready. Like, share, and
Yeah,
subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for your
definitely.
support.
And much love to all our subs that we got out there right now. We
Yes.
appreciate y'all.
Thank you guys.
Definitely.
Thanks
Definitely.
for rocking with us in the rough times and helping us grow. We appreciate your input, absolutely your viewership, your time, the love, the energy.
No doubt. For sure.
Any shout
This is
outs?
shout out to the rest of the team out there right now.
Indeed. Team
For
Schwebel
sure.
Room. Big
Shout
up.
out to the rest of the team. Eddie P,
Yeah.
Tank, for
Tank,
sure.
Kiki, Deep
Yeah.
Throat Conversations, support their
Can't for,
podcast.
can't forget them. Shout out to my man Tony Moroli and Keenan Thompson on the You Already Know podcast. Check them out too. They got some
Oh yeah.
fire. For sure.
Oh, yeah, Keenan, that's one of that's my guy, man. I
For
like that
sure.
guy. Yeah, man, shout out to everybody. Shout out to what's it, Tev Money.
Mm-hmm.
Got a hot song, Youngstown, My Town, Y Town.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So
Yeah, man, for sure.
shout out everybody. Love to the family, and we'll catch up with you next week.
Indeed.
Same
Yes,
bat place,
sir.
same bat time.
For sure.